Welcome back, one and all, to another edition of the Red and Blue Rivalry podcast. This is the podcast where we talk all things San Francisco 49ers and Dallas Cowboys.
My name is Eric Hernandez, and I'm calling all the faithful.
And I am Philip Enriquez, always repping for America's team. And in Week 14, we got a couple of tough losses to talk about, and we got a couple of tough tests upcoming to talk about. So let's start off with talking about what's in the rearview window. Some big games, tough losses. We'll start with your game, man. Baltimore beats the San Francisco 49ers by a score of 20-17. The San Francisco 49ers now drop to 10-2. But again, it was a tough loss to probably the hottest team in the NFL. Seattle now currently leads the NFC West. And if the playoffs started today, the Niners would be the 5 seed going to Dallas, which is funny.
Yeah, it is.
But before we even get into all of that, I mean, what are your thoughts on this loss? To me, just to sum it up, it was two heavyweights in the middle of the ring, and I think just the team that was just a little bit hotter, the team that had the home field advantage, took it.
I mean, early on, the Niners got the ball, and on 4th and 2, a bomb from Garoppolo to Deebo Samuel. And, when you're up 7-0, you kind of feel like, oh, wow, 4th and 2, bomb. And, Garoppolo just threw it up there, and Deebo Samuel earned his nickname, kind of just bullying Marcus Peters, getting the ball, going in for the touchdown. It's like a 42-yard pass. I felt pretty good. Then we stopped the Ravens, But then I think some of the elements kind of slowed us down. Our passing game took effect. On offense, we could run the ball. The 49ers should never have to draft the running back in the first 5 rounds. They should never have to pay. The running backs that they didn't draft or pay top dollar are the ones that get the job done.
I was going to tell you that, man. Like, I've been noticed. I was going to say that a couple of weeks ago on the show. Like, man, all the running backs that you guys signed for top dollar contracts, all the ones that you actually put some capital in, don't pan out. Look at Jerick McKinnon. Yes. And right now, Coleman isn't even looking like one of the best 3 running backs on your squad.
No, he comes and goes, and so he's not reliable. Like, when he's on, he's on. Like, he was on, I believe, for the Carolina game. But, this time, no Breida, who was an undrafted free agent. So you had Raheem Mostert, who's bounced around. Went for 19 carries, 146 yards, 7.7 yards. One was aided with that big run where he just cleared everybody.
But it's still part of the run.
And the speed, because they're fast. So, I would kind of look to see how we can get out of McKinnon and their contract. But the one thing about these guys is they get hurt. So that's why you kind of need that depth. But the Niners were able to, especially with Kittle back, kind of attack the edges of the Baltimore defense.
Hey, what about that Doug Gottlieb? It was on Twitter.
Yeah.
His comment about he doesn't see Kittle as a blocker.
And everybody else has told him, you're an idiot. He's a great blocker. You have guys like Mark Schlereth. You have across the board Brian Baldinger. Everybody that breaks down tape has said, no, you're full of crap.
He's a good blocker. It doesn't take a guy breaking down tape. I just watched the games, man, and you can see Kittle sealing off edges.
I was waiting for...
You can see Kittle just... He's getting in the way of potential tacklers.
Yeah.
That's a good blocker. I think maybe the term he was searching for was he's not like a road grader.
No.
He's not someone that, just takes it to and pancakes, defensive end.
You got to remember, like, when he talked about Gronk's huge. I was waiting for, like, Troikman to clown him, too. I was like,
right.
I go, an NFL player embarrassing Doug Gottlieb, it must be a day that ends in Y,
Yeah.
Because, they just clown him. But you looked at what they were able to do, attack the edge with the speed of Mostert, now. And that was the goal, was to get to the edges and attack, and run the ball. Garoppolo didn't have a bad game, kind of pedestrian, 15 to 21. The rain kind of hurt, 165 yards. He averaged 11, a touchdown, and then just, the sack. I think with Garoppolo, the fumble hurt. Sometimes he has to learn when to give up on a play.
Yeah, I agree. I see that too.
And the interceptions have gone down. He hasn't really thrown many interceptions anymore. But, when you look at that fumble, you can say that cost them, but it's going to happen. He also threw a 4th down bomb. He converted a couple times. So I don't think Garoppolo was the problem there. I think the problem arose was the defense and specifically the scheme. I think Robert Saleh came in with not the greatest game plan, which was to crash the edge and kind of say, oh, well, let Lamar beat us. And Lamar was beating them senseless.
Yeah. I mean, he's the MVP.
And I mean, you let them do that. But I mean, second half, they held them to 3 points.
Right. Yeah. I noticed they slowed them down a lot.
They slowed them down. And this was like a heavyweight fight in the sense that they were just throwing body shots at each other. Nobody had, like, there was not these big flashy plays. It wasn't like the Ravens and the Rams where just the Ravens had their way with them.
Right. They weren't trading knockdowns. Yeah. They were trading body shots, in the middle of the ring. Out. Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of like those one where it's like it's tied up in the 12th round and the Ravens hit a body shot, dropped the Niners to a knee for a second.
Those are the best fights, dude, and those are the best games.
And it was like they said it was a Super Bowl preview. I was bummed about the loss because, and we'll talk about it, like the end of the second half, and Shanahan kind of coaching scared a little bit. I understand at the beginning.
You think so, really?
The end of the half, yes. And I understand the beginning, because the beginning of the half, you kind of don't want to let Lamar have it, so you're kind of playing conservative. But in those conservative calls, you're getting first downs. So once they crossed the 50, it felt like he played a little bit not to lose. He got nervous about it. He could have, I think, I truly think that he could have called the game a little more aggressive at that point and maybe gotten an extra 5-10 yards.
Yeah.
And made that kick a little bit easier for Robbie Gould. And I think that this is the issue, is Garoppolo is learning how to be a quarterback. And John Lynch is learning how to be a GM. And Kyle Shanahan, they're learning to be these roles. And it takes time. And I think what's happening to Kyle Shanahan is now he's calling games where it matters. Like when you're, the last 2 years, they haven't been competitive, so he can call what he wants. He doesn't have to worry about long term. I can call what I want. We're already 2-14. It doesn't matter.
Right.
But now he's playing where these plays matter, And you wonder sometimes if he's learning how to manage a game. He's a great play caller.
Without a doubt, he's learning how to manage a game.
Because I think he's still a little shoddy.
Here's the thing. It's like Kyle Shanahan has went to Vegas and he swept some of the low-end casinos. Yeah. But now he's playing at the big stakes tables, playoff teams, MVP on the team. He went up against Russell Wilson. He went up against Lamar Jackson. He's going up against a John Harbaugh with Super Bowl experience. Yes. I mean, he knows what it's like to get his team.
He's got money invested in it this time.
Right, yes, exactly. And so he's learning to play at these high-stakes table, and I think it does show. I think you're right. I think it shows a little bit. But if I'm a 49ers fan, that's the least of my concerns because I think he's smart enough. I think the experience will come in time.
Yeah.
I think the talent on that defense is enough to erase one or two mistakes made by that offense, whether it be from the coach or the quarterback or the wide receivers or whoever it is that you want to blame. Mm-hmm. Man, that defense is like the ultimate eraser.
It does. To hold them to 17, they were averaging 35. They were the number one scoring offense, and they held them to 20 points.
Right. I mean, that's a feat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think what happens is we talk about like the fourth down call, was to be in shotgun and to throw it. And Shanahan's reasoning was he felt that they couldn't run the ball on them because, and this is true, yes, you can run on the edges when you feel like, they don't know if it's run or pass. But the Ravens are setting up to stop the run.
Right.
And then you look at the play call, and you could tell it was not designed well. The reason he had Garoppolo in shotgun was to give Garoppolo an extra second to look at the field. Garoppolo has a pretty quick release and is pretty accurate. So you want to give him an extra second, a tick. If he, and when you look at the play, I don't know. I don't think they really would have gotten anything. Everyone looks covered when I've seen the all-22 angle, but that's the difference of the game because when it was 4th and 1 for Baltimore, they lined up in like I formation and they had a full. I mean, Lamar played running back in that thing.
Right.
You also had, the kicker for the Ravens,
Tucker.
Tucker.
Yeah.
Who is like considered the best.
I mean, he's one of the best. He's the best kicker in the league, I think, today, and I think he's one of the best kickers in the last 5-10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, you look at him. I mean, you have guys like Belichick calls him the GOAT.
They're solid.
Kickers.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean.
And so I think it was you want to see that game. Like
considering he coached Vinatieri in his prime.
He's always going to take shots.
Yeah.
Don't be shocked when he takes shots at Brady.
Really? You think so?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. He'll be taking shots at Brady in a few years. But when you go back to the Niners, I think their defensive, they didn't play smart on defense as far as coaching. I think Robert Saleh didn't have a good game plan to start the season.
But they adjusted.
And that was important.
They adjusted well, and they still kept that Ravens offense. That's the number one offense in the league. You know, they held them in check in the second half. There was plenty of opportunities for the offense to put some points on the board, but they didn't get it done. And I know you kind of questioned the defense of the Ravens, and you guys were running on them, but I mean, you got to make it. You got to turn it into points, man.
Yeah, that's
the Cowboys' biggest problem. We could move the ball up and down the field on anybody.
Yeah.
We just don't always turn it into points.
And that was, I think some of it I'll give the weather. I think the weather hurt a little bit of both.
And it does.
I mean, you had Lamar Jackson. I mean, it just because you held Lamar Jackson to 105 yards passing. Okay, maybe but still, that's 105 yards you held him to. Rushing, you held him to 101.
Right.
So you held him, which has been like, we call it the MVP of the league. Why?
Yeah.
Not just because he throws,
having
he can
some
run.
Big games. Yeah.
Yeah. So you were able to keep them in check. They were one. And then the touchdown that Lamar got off the turnover, you can tell right away that Fred Warner misplayed the ball. And that was one of Fred Warner's few mistakes. Fred Warner's a beast.
No,
Fred Warner
really
is like one of the best linebackers.
He's quickly approaching being
because
one of the top linebackers.
In coverage, because it was that fourth down play where they try to throw the out route against the tight end, and you think, oh, there's no way. And he still makes the play.
Yeah, he sticks out to me. When you watch a game, like he jumps off the screen, like, hey, this guy's good. Like, hey, this guy makes plays. This guy's around the ball constantly.
Second year player out of BYU, and you're like, this guy's gonna be, if they don't make the Super Bowl, he's gonna be on the Pro Bowl as an alternate. I really do think so. I think the talent there, they just shut things down. I think not having D Ford, I believe, did hurt a little bit.
Yeah.
But you know what though, I think it's so hard to get sacks on them because they don't throw. And when they throw, it's so rare that it's so hard to get anything on him.
Right.
I mean, they have the play where they run like the read option, the zone read, and you have the basic concept to stop the zone read, which is your DN crashes on the line on the running back, and your linebacker kind of comes over to stop him.
Yeah.
What the Ravens did in the one play where it's famous now, where he juked K'Wan Williams, the corner, was they had the tight end come and stop the linebacker. Now the defensive back has to come in, and Lamar already knows he's got an angle on him.
Right.
With his speed, it's over. It was a great game. Like I said, that one hurt. It sucks to lose those type of games. You want to win one of these big name games. They're gonna get a chance this week. But it was a good lesson. It was a great game, and man, if we get a chance to play them in the Super Bowl, I would love to see on some not wet field with a week to prepare.
Yeah, me too. I'd love to see New England like that. But here's the thing. I think 49ers, man, I think some of the 49ers fans on Twitter are rivaling some of the worst Cowboys fans on Twitter, because this team is 10-2, and they were ripping Kyle Shanahan. I mean, what's up with that, man? I mean, come on, you're 10-2. If you would have told 49ers fans at the beginning of the season, you're going to win 10 games total, they would have took it in a second.
That was the most optimistic was that.
Yeah, now to call for this man and call him an idiot or call him, making a mistake. Yeah.
The defense.
How ridiculous is that? Come on, Niners fans. Got to be better than that.
There's a group of Niner fans. They're like what I consider like the 40 whiner fans. They're the ones that give us a bad name because they whine about everything. You're 10-2. You went to Baltimore. You did something that not even New England could do.
Right.
The New England Patriots got smoked by them.
Right.
You held them to 3 and were a player 2. I think it's fair to look at a game and criticize across the board certain things, but in the grand scheme, a quarterback's not going to have a perfect game. A running back's not going to have a perfect game. And a coach isn't going to always call a perfect game. There's going to be mistakes. And in close games, that's going to happen. At the end of the day, this is the first time Kyle Shanahan has been in games that matter.
Right.
So he's learning. If you truly believe that this team is built to last past this year, then you're okay because you're watching him grow and mature.
The one thing that I'll say is that you can never count on being good for too long in the NFL. No. You have to take when the iron is hot, you need to strike.
Yeah.
And right now the 49ers defense is playing hot. Armstead, will he be on the team next year? We don't know. You better strike.
There are free agents.
While this iron is hot.
I agree with you.
And that's the way I see it.
I think he's going to be the coach for a while.
Yeah.
So he's learning. He's learning his thing.
Exactly.
I'm not saying it's
he's going to have to learn a little quicker than we would like to see.
Yes, that is true.
Being honest, because when you start dealing with the best of the best, when you're going up against Belichick's and Harbaugh's, it's different, man.
Yeah.
Ask Jared Goff. I mean, not Jared Goff. Ask Sean McVay.
Oh, ask Jared Goff too. He
yeah,
learned too.
ask Jared Goff too. You know.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I think that when you look back at that game, it sucks, but I mean, I got over that a lot quicker than the Seattle game took me a few days to really kind of get over. That hurt a lot. And now we see what happens losing to them. But at the end of the day, it was a great game. I can't wait to see this game. They're going to finally be healthy. We'll talk about the game in a little bit. But, to close a book on that game, I feel like this, and this shouldn't count, but just my thought process is if that game had another quarter, the Niners would have won. Because I felt like they finally were starting to slow down the Ravens. They were finally starting to get their running game and their passing game going against the Ravens. So, man, I would love to see them in Miami for the Super Bowl. But enough about a game on Sunday. Let's talk about a game on Thanksgiving.
Do we have to?
Yes.
Yes.
I
really don't want to.
Part of the job.
All right.
So, Thanksgiving, one of the traditions are the Dallas Cowboys play on Thanksgiving. And they went and played the Buffalo Bills, hosted the Buffalo Bills. And what I thought was going to be where the Dallas Cowboys kind of flex their muscle, show what they're about. And boy, was I wrong.
Yeah.
The Buffalo Bills walked in there beating the Dallas Cowboys 26-15. And I mean, it wasn't just that they lost and the amount, but it was just, how they lost. And then I think even more,
it was a bad game.
Even more crazy was the aftermath.
Yes.
I mean, this thing just.
That's what's worrying me.
Yeah.
The aftermath of this game more than the game itself. And the game was bad.
Yeah.
So that's saying a lot right now. I mean, for me, man, look, the Cowboys probably played their worst game of the season and did it in prime time on Thanksgiving with the world watching. They should not be proud. Nobody in that locker room should be proud of themselves. It was a team loss. Put it on everybody. Dak had a very bad game. Garrett coached a very bad game. I can go on and on. Even Jerry Jones after is crying, talking about putting the pressure on his head coach prior to the game, and then says he's going to let the coach keep coaching and crying. I mean, even the owner's mixed up. I mean, it just looks bad. I got to admit, you know what? I lost a lot of faith that Dallas can turn this thing around based on everything that's went down in this last week. Yeah, for me, just let's start with the game. When you start with the game, I mean, you made Josh Allen, and Josh Allen I know is playing a lot better late in the season. Josh Allen was 19 of 24. That's a high completion percentage. 231 yards with a touchdown. But, man, he was moving around, evading the rush, making plays on the run. I mean, it was embarrassing. Defensive tackle Star Lutulele had an interception on Dak. Dak threw a bad ball. Just one of the many mistakes that Dak Prescott made in that game, trying to make a play when the play wasn't there to be made. He shouldn't have forced that ball. I think the Bills really did it for Cole Beasley. Cole Beasley had 6 catches for 110 yards and a touchdown. And, the Buffalo Bills, I'll say this to any Bills fans that ever would listen to us again after we picked them to finish behind the Jets in preseason. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. I'm very, very sorry. I should have never picked the Jets to finish above Buffalo. I obviously didn't know what I was talking about.
No, when it came to Buffalo, yeah.
I am a man that stands corrected, and Buffalo is a legitimate team to be feared in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to read you some things right here that I looked up. This is some of the stats of the game. 458 yards, 355, 103, 32 first downs, and you had 72 total plays. And yet you lost by 11 points. I don't know if anything else just screams coaching than that this is a coaching issue with the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
That, going for it on certain downs, and I mean, they went for it, like, was it 4th and 1 on their own 20? I mean, that puts pressure on your team. You got it, but it's like, there's some of those things that we realize this guy feels it.
Oh, yeah.
He got to feel it. Dak didn't have a bad game. It's like Dak didn't have a bad game, but he had a game where you're just kind of looking at it like, what's going on here?
Here's another thing. Dak on the stat sheet didn't have a bad game. But when you look at, that's another thing. Look, it works in his favor sometimes because I'm the first one to defend Dak when they're like, well, Dak only threw for 220 yards. Hey, Dak made how many third downs? Dak, made how many great
Money downs,
money downs. That I don't care. Like, people always knock Troy Aikman, and it seems like I talk about this week after week after week. But it's like, when I watched the Cowboys play in the '90s, he was the man leading that offense. He was the man making big plays. I don't care if he didn't throw for 500 yards. He didn't need to. The thing is, that team followed him, and he had the confidence. I had the confidence in him, and his teammates had the confidence in them, not just to not blow the game, but to win the game. This was not the case this weekend. Dak's stat line looks okay, but Dak did not play well enough to win that game. Dak made a lot of mistakes. I mentioned how he forced that ball on that screenplay.
Yeah.
Star Lotulelei intercepted. You got intercepted by a defensive tackle. You're trying to make a play where there isn't a play to be made. Like you said, Jimmy Garoppolo needs to learn when to check it down, when to give up on a play. Look, Dak Prescott, I could say the same thing for him this week. He should have gave up on that play. There was no way to force that ball in there.
Yeah, and I think the one play that kind of just, if you could boil this whole game, and maybe even the Cowboys season, is that 4th and 1 for Buffalo, where they're going to go for it. They fumble the snap. Josh Allen literally picks it up, which blew my mind first and foremost, and runs over your players to get a first down. And I just thought, Dallas is broken. And then, of course, you let Cole Beasley just revenge game, and he went six receptions on 7 targets for 110 yards.
Yeah.
Average 18 yards and a touchdown. I mean, you know him. How is that not game plan? He was their only real passing weapon of, it's a half of Josh Allen's passing yards.
Yeah.
Was to him. And, I look at it like, God, this team is, the stats that I read shows you how talented the team is. And when they're so flawed. But I want to talk about one thing in particular, because maybe it was just what I heard looking at it from far away, but I always thought that kicker was good. Maher was good. And
he's inconsistent.
And, I mean, missing, what did he miss? A field goal, an extra point, a field goal. He missed like 2 field goals,
He's terrible, man.
And
he's inconsistent. He can wow you 1 second with a 65-yard kick, and he can have you cursing him in that very same game, missing a 22-yarder. That's just Maher. That's been Maher for the last year and a half.
0 for 2 in field goals, and I don't think they were that long either. I know one was kind of, but the other one was.
Yeah, one wasn't. They went for one over 40.
I think.
Yeah, exactly. He's inconsistent, man. The Cowboys are just not ready to win, man. That's what it is.
It feels like they scramble for a game plan.
They don't have an identity.
Yeah,
that's the problem with this year's team. They don't have an identity. And I'll say this. I know fans were excited for all the big, explosive plays, especially early on in the season. Kellen Moore, he's going to take over. Everybody's whipping boy was Scott Linehan, and off with his head. And everybody cheered. And Dak Prescott's looking like a MVP candidate a couple of weeks ago and all this stuff. But the bottom line is, in all that hoopla, they lost their identity. This is a running team that keeps their defense off the field, keeps their defense fresh, and that's when the defense plays its best, like they did going down the stretch of last season, like they did against New Orleans last year when we upset them in New Orleans. I mean, it's just, that's the way it is. It's whenever they have success, it's because they're running the ball. Zeke, the last 4 weeks, is not getting enough touches, is not running efficiently. The running game is broken because we've lost the identity, and I think that's costing the Cowboys down the stretch.
Yeah, I think my final thought just on this game is, if you're Dallas, I mean, how do you not see 8-8? Just look, and the one thing is, 8-8 might still get you into the playoffs in that division.
Well, with Philadelphia,
yeah,
it looks very likely.
I think you got a get right game coming up, so we'll talk about that in a bit.
We will. But before we do that, let's get back to 49er land. 49ers at 10-2, going to New Orleans, also 10-2. NO is favored by 2.5 points. I think they started as 3-point favorites, but they're at home. So basically, they're saying if this team played, in the Super Bowl, not at home, that this would be a pick'em game. So, you talked a little bit about the injury report. You got some players that should be coming back. Breida, Ford. Is Pettis still questionable? Or?
Yeah, I don't think Pettis will be playing.
Yeah.
I think whether he was healthy or not,
he may not be playing anyway.
No.
Yeah. But again, is facing Drew Brees still as daunting of a task as it once was, as compared to, say, the Russell Wilsons and Lamar Jacksons of the world.
Oh man, it kind of, the way you look at the way the Niners are built, especially on defense, you feel like it's these pocket passers, as great as they are. I mean, they smashed Aaron Rodgers, who's the greatest, one of the greatest that's ever played that position, and they owned him completely, just took him out of his element. And he's Aaron Rodgers is Lamar Jackson compared to Drew Brees,
right?
And so what the Saints offer that's a little bit different. Well, one, the game is in New Orleans as opposed to Santa Clara. Two, New Orleans offensive line is a tad better. And I think the weapons they have in Kamara and Michael Thomas. But they don't throw deep.
No, they don't.
They don't. And I think the Niners' coverage and speed is going to get to them. I think that if the Niners can, impose their will, especially in the middle of the field, because that's where Drew Brees is going to want to throw the ball. It's the middle of the field. And you have guys like Fred Warner. You have D Ford coming back, which should force him to rush throws.
Right.
I believe Sherman looks healthy. The team finally is getting healthy across the defensive line. So we don't have the depth we had at the beginning of the year with injuries, but those front four, when you can go Armstead, Buckner, Bosa, and Ford with, a guy like Fred Warner manning the middle of that, you feel pretty confident against almost any offense, even the mighty and powerful New Orleans offense.
They are well coached, though. I think Sean Payton's the best coach out of all of them on the NFC. Take Belichick out. Yeah.
I think that's true, but you can only coach with the talent you have as far as what
right.
Drew Brees can still do.
Right, and Brees can still throw the ball down the field. He just doesn't do it anywhere near as consistently as he was 4 years ago.
Yeah, and I just don't think that he's going to have the time he needs. He needs a tick longer.
He does. He's a second slower now.
And so that second is enough time for a D Ford, especially D Ford, to get around the edge.
He's a complete speed rusher.
And, they talk about, this thing about, with the mainstream media, the Niners don't blitz. The Niners will blitz. They will send blitz.
The Niners blitz.
On third down, they send.
Blitz.
They send. Because their thought process is, you can barely stop our front four as it is. Now, let me add something else, and you really are screwed.
And they don't just blitz an extra man a lot of times.
They'll send a linebacker and a safety.
Yeah, they blitz two guys often.
Yeah, so they bring pressure. And what you look at, especially, I think third down is when he wants to do that, especially if it's third and medium.
Third and long. I noticed they'll do it.
They'll send it.
They'll send it to you. So
I think this defense is going to be fine. I don't really think the New Orleans is going to be able to route them in any way. I look at, Drew Brees this is going to be his toughest test. The one thing people talk about is this schedule that it's the most, historically, one of the most difficult schedules the Niners faced was Green Bay at Baltimore at New Orleans. And especially in New Orleans' case, they got to beat that Niners defense. Drew Brees has to show he can hang with that defense.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
And much like every game, it's going to come down to, New Orleans defense versus the 49er offense. And can they find success? Now, they're going to get Joe Staley back, which is great. They're going to get Matt Breida. Matt Breida, if that was a playoff game, he would have played last week. That was because the notification was you got across the board was he was going to play. And then in the morning, they just said, you know what? Shanahan understood. We're going to sit him another week just to make sure.
In case.
So, you have him.
Is that the case with Staley? Because he didn't look too hot last time.
Staley, I think, it's one of those things where Jadeveon Clowney just is Jadeveon Clowney. He's going to have those type of games every once in a while. And, you really are a little nervous. Cam Jordan does make me nervous.
Hell yeah, he should make you nervous, dude. Cam Jordan's got 13 and a half sacks already.
Yeah, he's a monster. So they're going to have to decide how they want to attack him.
15 and a half tackles for loss.
You're going to go away from him, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
But I don't think, in the same mold of the Baltimore defense, I think because Breida and Mostert are just speed. They are, we're talking about, Raheem Mostert was a track star at Purdue.
Right.
Breida is one of the fastest players in the NFL. So you look at their ability to have two guys to just keep going, speed, pressure, and he's going to pressure the edges with those. He's going to attack the edge of the defense. And what you're hoping for is you can kind of continue to do that, where I don't think Garoppolo, I'll be honest, I don't think Garoppolo is going to have this great game against them. I don't.
He has the potential for a big mistake, I believe. I do, though.
Yeah.
I think this Saints game, he better be sharp, is what I think. Because if he plays the way I've seen him play, maybe a couple of weeks ago, he's not going to make it because this defense will capitalize on the littlest mistake. Being a Cowboys fan that's played New Orleans, the one thing that I noticed about New Orleans that really no other team has been able to do was the minute you make a mistake, they capitalize. They're smart enough and good enough to capitalize without selling out. I mean, you look at what's the safety's name? Marcus Williams.
Yeah,
man, he's got 4 or 5 picks on the season already. I mean, he makes plays, man. I mean, he's all over the field.
Yeah, I think what I'm hoping for is that Garoppolo has kind of turned the corner with interceptions. Come and go. Hope he turned the corner as far as just wide. Like where was he throwing, or what did he not see? I think that they're gonna manage game. I don't think Garoppolo is gonna get a chance, in my opinion, to have that big mistake, and I don't think he's really going to get many big plays either. I really feel like this is going to be a ball control game. I think they're going to want to run the ball, convert on downs. I think Garoppolo is going to make his money on 3rd and 4, 3rd and 6, and be able to hit like Kittle or Debo, Emmanuel Sanders. They're finally getting guys healthy, so I think the game is going to be won on Ken Garoppolo. The whole game is going to be on Ken Garoppolo and this offense convert on 3rd down. Yeah. Ken Garoppolo, if it's anything over 3rd and 4, can he convert with his arm? He has the ability, accurate, athletic, but that's going to be the game. Can he get the ball before Cam Jordan just crashes down on him? Can they block Cam Jordan? I mean, because Cam Jordan,
not many teams can this year, man.
Yeah, Cam honest. Jordan. I mean, you watch what he did at Atlanta on Thanksgiving. Yeah. And kind of Cam Jordan reminds me of maybe a little less fast, but as powerful like Jadeveon Clowney.
Yeah.
Where he doesn't just beat guy up, he just drives the tackle as far back and then throws him.
Right. He's more of a bull rusher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And kind of like what Clowney did. And that's what scares me is what Clowney was able to do to both our tackles. You would hope that Shanahan understands that. It's going to be loud. But, man, if you can make a play on defense, if you can get a pick six, if you can get a strip sack and return for a touchdown, you take the crowd out of that game for a little bit. You'll put the crowd, on their seats for a little bit.
Yeah, that's the key, because that stadium will get loud if they're ahead.
Yeah,
you don't want your team playing like that, dude, from behind.
No, exactly, because then you're kind of letting them dictate everything,
So in the end, man, what do you see? How do you see this game playing out?
Man, you know what? I think that it won't be as crazy as far as the score. But I think it'll look like the Green Bay game. I think they will pressure Drew Brees. I think Drew Brees will be under duress the whole game. I think you will see missed throws, short, inaccurate. I think they make Drew Brees look mortal for the first time in a very long time. I just think that the Niners will be able to get certain first downs. I think the Niners will be able to get like a 10-point lead. I think they win by 7.
Yeah, I can totally see that happening. I think the Niners defense can definitely and will definitely capitalize on whatever little mistakes and inefficiencies the Saints have on offense. Michael Thomas, though, man, we haven't even talked about Michael Thomas. I mean, he's averaging over 100 yards per game receiving. That's something you're going to have to deal with. That I don't think you've dealt with anybody who's as consistently good as Michael Thomas.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I agree. It will be, and I think that's the key. The key to stopping Michael Thomas is to force, because I feel like if anything's short, like if Brees has to get the ball to him, I think Richard Sherman can handle it. I think if Brees gets a tick longer, if they're in play action, and Richard Sherman has to cover him, I think that's when it gets real scary.
Yeah, it's going to be
and they're going to try at Richard. I mean, people are trying now. They're throwing bombs and seeing, and he's not, he gives up a couple plays or penalties here and there.
Right, but in this day and age, that's normal.
That's just NFL's crazy like that. So you just want to see them kind of get into their facts, and I do think the Niners avenge their law. Get back on track. They get their 11th win. They get 1 inch closer to the playoffs, and we clear one big hurdle to the big one in Week 17.
Yeah, this is a big game. This is back to the NFC. Look, as heartbreaking and as much as it sucks to lose any game any week, especially when you're on a hot streak like the San Francisco 49ers are. I mean, it was Baltimore. It's the AFC. These NFC games, this is playoff seeding here. Yep. This is a possible bye.
Yep.
Like we talked about earlier, if the playoffs started today, you guys are on the road to the 6-6 Cowboys.
Yeah, and you got to keep pace with the Seattle. Seattle.
And honestly, man, like you don't want to be on the road.
No,
you don't.
As talented as you are, you don't want
to start on the road. You know, you don't. Even a team like Dallas, who, of course, I'm not outlandish to think that Dallas would have the advantage on the 49ers the way they're playing right now.
Yeah.
I'm not that crazy. But at the same time, even if I was a 49ers fan, I don't want to give a talented team home field advantage and any hope. I don't, you don't want to do that.
I don't want to go to it's the same thing, not just with Dallas. I mean, however the seeding breaks out, I wouldn't want to have to go to Green Bay.
Right.
Even though we smoked them, I just don't want to have to deal with that.
Right.
Yeah, it's added, it's something you don't want. I mean, in both of those situations, you're looking at teams that kind of are motivated, whether it's Green Bay looking to avenge their loss or, if Dallas gets in, and it looks like they will, they're going to finally say, okay, all that happened was just the regular season is whatever. And, you don't want to have to deal with that,
Right. Yeah. I give you that. I give you that for sure. You know what? I can see the 49ers pulling this off, but I just think New Orleans is tough at home. I love both these defenses. These defenses to me are easily, in my opinion, everybody talks about how the New England defense is setting records and all this. I don't think that defense is as good as these two defenses. I just don't. Shove the numbers up your ass. Look, people think Deion Sanders isn't the fastest man to ever play in the NFL. Shove the stopwatches up your ass. Deion Sanders is the fastest man to have ever played in the NFL.
I didn't think people had that thought. That's crazy.
There are people. Well,
these
people
youngins.
Say, they think, Deion wasn't that fast. Yeah, no, he was. Trust me, with pads on and a helmet, he was the fastest man I've ever seen on a field.
Yeah, no.
Me, at least in my time. So it's the same thing. Shove the stats up your ass. This 49ers defense is legit. They make plays. They keep the team in every game. But guess what? So does that New Orleans Saints team.
Yeah.
And with the Saints being at home, I'm calling it like Vegas, man. I can see the Saints winning by 2 points. I see it like a close game. And I think that may actually even work in the Niners' favor because I think that makes them laser focused for the game that matters even more than this. The Seahawks, man.
Yeah,
because beating the Seahawks is going to really go a long way in making sure you play that first playoff game in Santa Clara.
Very true.
So that's the way I'm seeing that game.
So we talked about that. Now let's move on to the, again, Thursday night game. And this time the Dallas Cowboys go on the road to visit the Chicago Bears and try to kind of reset, regroup, get above 500. So, I mean, what are your thoughts? How do you look at this game against the Bears?
Look, I'm not confident at all. As a Cowboys fan, I am not confident at all. These are two 6-6 teams that are really struggling just to stay in the playoff race, to be in the playoffs. Chicago's right now on the outside looking in, and Dallas is on the inside looking out, is what it looks like to me. We got a couple of injuries, nothing big. Tony Pollard's got an ankle injury. Antoine Woods has a knee injury. Heath with the shoulder. LVE is out with a neck injury again for another week. So that's concerning.
What's with him?
You know what? I don't know if he's going to play anytime soon. I mean, that neck injury, Garrett said in a press conference, we're just glad that we don't think it's going to be season ending. So it's serious. It's something that's going to keep him out for the next at least week or two, I'm thinking. And at this point, I think the Cowboys are just trying to, win their division games and get in the playoffs. The Bears front seven versus the Cowboys running game, that's going to be the key to this game. The Bears have some talent on that front seven still. Talk about the linebacker, 58, Roquan Smith. I mean, he had a really slow start to the season, but he had 2 sacks in the game against Detroit. And Roquan Smith, there was a lot of hype going into the draft about Roquan Smith. And it didn't look good at first, but he's playing a lot better in this last month of the season. So, that's somebody that you're going to have to deal with on the Bears front seven. And, of course, I think we all know you have to deal with number 52, Khalil Mack. I mean, he's one of the best defensive players in the league. Yeah, his stats aren't anywhere near what they were a year ago, but he's facing double teams, triple teams, and, you still have to account for him because he's one of those rare players that has the ability to single-handedly wreck a game if you let him. He can do what Clowney did to you guys a few weeks ago. That's Khalil Mack to me. So that front seven versus the Cowboys' offensive line and running game, that's going to be the key. And they did hold Saquon Barkley to just 59 yards on 17 carries when they played New York, about 3-4 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Right, 3 weeks ago. So they can shut down a top running attack, a top running back. And Zeke, he hasn't looked good the last 4 weeks, or at least hasn't ran his usual 100-yard games. He's had 47, 45, 86, and 71-yard games. He's failed to reach 100 yards in the last 4 games. So I think that's a key matchup. Reestablishing the identity as a running team is what Dallas needs to do, and they need to get through, the front 7 to do that.
What I look at with that game is I just don't think, how do I say this? Yeah, I picked the Cowboys to beat the Bills, but the Bills are a good team. They're a playoff contending team. When I look at the Bears, they're just a broken team. And I just don't trust Mitchell Trubisky.
Dallas is running smooth.
They still have an engine. Like their engine it makes a lot of sounds. It's leaking oil. You're wondering where that gasket is. Transmission's a little shot. The Bears don't have a fucking engine at all.
Yeah.
Their engine is like the Flintstones, And I think what kills them is losing the defensive tackle that they lost during the season. Is it Nix? Oh no.
Hicks.
Yeah, Keem Hicks.
Keem Hicks.
Yeah, I think if he was in this game, I think maybe it'd be closer.
He's the second best player on that defense behind Mac.
Yeah. But I think because he would have been able to at least neutralize some of the offensive line. This game is going to be decided by Dallas. In the sense
That's been every week for Dallas,
but
we've been favored in like every single game.
But I think this is so much more different than because the Bills are a talented team. The gap between the Bills and them isn't as great as people think. It's just we are familiar with more of the Cowboys. When you look at the Bills, that's a 9-7 team. They're gonna go to the playoffs.
Yeah, right.
I mean, a 9-win team, not 9-7. Just a 9-win team. Whereas with Chicago, they don't know what they're doing. So I just look at if Dallas wants to come out and say, we're going to run the ball. We're going to line up an I formation like we used to do last year. We're going to run it. And you know what? We're going to make them stop. We're not going to stop. Dak may only have 180 yards, but 80 of those yards is going to be on third down.
Right.
We're only going to have a few, but we're never going to let them. And when we're on defense, Trubisky's not going to get a second to breathe. I'm reading on the quote now, Trevathan will be out for the game. Amukamara is going to be doubtful.
Yeah.
So they're banged up.
I think they're going to attack that second corner, whoever it is, with Gallup.
Yeah.
For sure.
So I know they're dysfunctional, but see, this is Dallas. I mean, tell me you can't see them winning this game, losing to the Rams.
I can see the Cowboys winning every game they've played because they have the talent. They play well. They just shoot themselves in the foot. Bad teams make bad mistakes. And that's what the Cowboys have done.
Yeah, because
that's why we're 500.
Yeah.
That's why. There's no difference on paper. When I pull out all the paper, there's no difference between the Cowboys roster and the Saints or the 49ers or the Green Bay. There's not.
No.
The talent's there.
But I think the difference is in coaching.
Yeah, it's got to be. It's got to be.
Yeah.
It's got to be in coaching. I mean, I thought Garrett was done. I thought his goose was finally truly cooked. But it was just a ploy by Jerry Jones. It's just Jerry Jones playing games because I think he felt like if I really threaten Garrett out in the open, in the media, it'll put the pressure to him, and the Cowboys will respond with a big win and Thanksgiving. And like Parcells used to always preach, you know who you are by Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
That's who you are. And right now, we're 500. We can't beat a good team.
No.
That's who we are. So it'll be fun because we are playing a 500 team. Yeah. So there's still hope for me that we can win this game.
Yep.
But look, the way I see it, with the Garrett stuff, the dysfunction, it's getting bad. The threats didn't work from Jerry Jones. And then he's crying, and he's going to keep him.
But how does he not know? You've dealt with this guy for a decade. There's certain players, like you say, coaches should know their players, right? You should know how to motivate your players. Right. Some guys need this. Some guys need to be yelled and talked to. If you're an owner, how do you not know about your players? How do you not know how they respond? What in Jason Garrett's DNA did Jerry Jones think this will get Jason Garrett's going? He should have known from last year, oh, I'm not going to extend him. That's not going to change who Jason Garrett is. Jason Garrett could have a $20 million, a 20-year contract for $1 million, or he could have a day contract. He's not going to change. He is who he is.
Right.
He's not going to prepare
Garrett
any
is
different.
who he is. Garrett's a robot to me. I mean,
he's not going to prepare any more or any less.
Right.
That's just, he's going to prepare how he prepares.
Right.
Whether he's going to be fired or he's got a lifetime contract. So I don't get that ploy. I guess their thought process is, well, we're just going to write it out one way or another. They must not believe that Chris Richard or Kellen Moore or
And they're not ready to take over a team like that.
No,
they're not.
They're not.
As bad as Garrett has been, especially going down the stretch right now, you're not going to do any better with those guys.
You're not going to win. They're not going to win you a Super Bowl.
No way. Not saying that Garrett even could, but there's no. At least Garrett has a how do you say, a puncher's chance.
Yeah. And I just think that that's not even a knock on Richard or Kellen Moore. It's just that you guys are rookie coaches. You'd be rookie head coaches. You'd be having to deal with so many ins and outs that Garrett at least knows he has to deal with, where they don't. But,
right. Exactly.
He understands the game in the grander scheme of it, whereas they're coordinators. But man, I mean, sooner or later, the way Jerry Jones is talking, when he says, I believe that Jason Garrett will be coaching in the NFL next year, it's not a ringing endorsement.
No, it's not. It means he'll be in New York coaching against us next season. You know, it really does, man. It's not a ringing endorsement. It's dysfunctional. Honestly, as a Cowboys fan, I don't like seeing it. I don't think any good can come of it. I don't think it's doing anybody any better. I don't think it's motivating the team anymore. I don't think it's motivating Garrett anymore. I don't know what they expect to accomplish through the media anymore. No. And at least Dak, the one thing he did say in the media this week is, just got to play better. It's all about what we do on the field. Talk is cheap. Yeah. And we've been doing a lot of talking, and now here we are at 6-6. Yeah. I'll give him that. And hopefully he can be the leader in the locker room and turn it around. There's still a whole quarter of NFL season to go. Yeah. There's still the final 4 games. Anything can change, man. A team can lose 4 straight or win 4 straight. No. I mean, we win 4 straight, we're right back where we were last year at 10-6. I don't think that's going to happen. That's not what it's looking like right now. I'm really honestly looking at 8-8 in the face for me as a Cowboys fan. I can see that happening. Yeah.
I think the only way that happens is if the Eagles find their way, but who knows? I mean, maybe it's the Redskins that hand you that 8th one.
Then Garrett, I don't know. If Garrett keeps his job and we lose to the Redskins, something's wrong.
Yeah, he's got
it doesn't matter. Just let Richard.
That is his son.
Then exactly. They need to do a blood test that day and make sure he's not, blood related to Jason Garrett and to Jerry Jones. I
think
crazy.
This is a good get-right game for you guys. I think what will happen is they will win this game, and Cowboys fans and the media will go in feeling a little bit better because, hey, you know what? They're above 500. They regained it. They'll still be a game up on the Eagles. So I do think they win this game. I do think they win comfortably. And I do think they put on a show on Thursday night. I mean, this is not the Buffalo Bills. This is the Chicago Bears of this year, and they're not anything to write home about. You can't let Mitch Trubisky beat you.
He played good in Detroit.
It's Detroit, though.
He played good, though. He played very well. I mean, I know the Cowboys' defense is a lot better with Quinn and Lawrence.
Remember what the Rams did to him?
Yeah.
Do you want your defense to be along the lines?
They're not.
No.
I know that. Yeah. And that's just right now, dude. I mean, I'm just ready for anything, man. So
I get you. I get you.
We'll see what happens, man. This is we're going around that last corner. It's the last month of the season. We'll see what happens. I think both these teams are more than likely playoff bound. It's just a matter of where they're seating. And I got to admit, I kind of think it's interesting if it would end up being where it's at right now. But
yeah, I mean, I think the odds are that is kind of what may happen because if Seattle, beating Seattle is the thing. Beating Seattle week 17, that's the key. That is the one hurdle they have. They have done all these things. The Niners, we should say, have done all these things. Their defense is better. Their defense was complete trash last year. It's amazing this year. Garoppolo is actually healthy for a season. Right. Shanahan's coaching games that matter in November and December. They were able to beat. They lost by I think 3 points last year, or maybe 7 points to Green Bay in Green Bay. They almost had them beat with. I think C.J. Beathard was the quarterback at the time. I mean, they're beating these teams
Where
now.
Is C.J. Beathard?
Oh, he's right on the bench.
Is he?
Yeah, Beathard's still beating hard on the Niners bench.
Poor guy.
Yeah, Beathard's beating hard on the Niners bench, dude. Just being able to. We haven't been able to beat the Cardinals.
Is he active on game day?
No,
right?
No. Okay. Short answer is no.
All right, yeah, just checking because I haven't even heard him.
I think they had him on the scout team. I think he was. Who did they have him be? I think they had him scout team. They had him be Russell Wilson, and he hurt himself trying to do what Russell Wilson does.
Yeah, that's.
I think Shanahan was just doing it for shits and giggles.
Yeah.
But, they've done so many great things. They've broken so many barriers. They swept the Cardinals. They haven't done that in a very long time.
Right.
They beat a fully healthy Rams team. Well, not fully healthy, but, the last time the Niners beat the Rams, the Rams sat people before the playoffs.
Right.
This was the first time they both had something to play for.
They were trying.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they beat them. The last hurdle is beating Seattle when it matters. They beat Seattle last year, but it just didn't matter. It's the expectation was different last year.
Right. Yeah.
This year is being able to go into Seattle and beat Seattle to win the division. Yeah. Can you do that? Can you climb that final mountain in our division? There's greater mountains past that, but can you finally do that?
But that's the big one in the regular season.
Yes.
Yeah. Obviously, the playoff mountains are playoff mountains.
Everest.
Right. But right here, because that's do or die. But in the regular season, that's the biggest mountain.
Yep, I agree.
That's so we got a lot to look forward to.
There's two big games. I think you guys in a few weeks looking to Philly, and we got Seattle. That's going to determine a lot of things.
Big games for different reasons, man. But yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that'll about wrap it up for Week 14 on the Red and Blue Rivalry podcast. Again, we talk all things Dallas Cowboys and San Francisco 49ers. Hopefully, next week we'll be talking about some big wins.
Yep.